Hi everybody, I'm Paul and this is the Toon Review. Welcome back. In this episode I'm going to be going through my player ratings for the past gone season. What I've done is I've rated them out of 10 each player, but I haven't included every squad member. What I've done is I put the players in that have played the majority of the season, because if I went through every squad member, the ratings wouldn't really be true for the guys that have hardly played. So it's just the mainstay of the squad for this year. Now what I want to do is go through them, and as I say, I've rated them out of 10. If you differ or you don't agree with something, put it in the comments below. Let me see what you'd actually rate that player. And it's going to be interesting to see what different Newcastle fans think of different ratings. You know, who the players are that have really excelled for them compared to me, and it's going to be interesting to have that discussion. So do put down in the comments below who you would have changed or rated higher or lower, whatever, and we'll see how they compare to mine. So if I start off with the goalkeepers, I've only gone for Dubravka because Darlow obviously played a few of the cup games, did okay in them. No problem with Karl Darlow playing the cup games, but the majority of the season was obviously Dubravka. Now, I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Martin Dubravka, and I've given him an 8 simply because, you know, he did make some errors this season. Now, yes, everybody's going to come back and say, yeah, but how many points did he save us here? How many points did he save us there? Yes, I agree. If it wasn't for Dubravka saving us a point in some matches, or actually 3 points in others, we would have been right down in the mire this season. With the amount of goals that Newcastle try and score, you know, without Dubravka, we could have been in serious trouble. So yes, I realise that, but because of the errors, I've gone for an 8. But I think he will get better. I think he will actually get better and better if he's given the opportunity to stay, whatever happens with the takeover, etc. Under a decent goalkeeping coach, I really think Dubravka could excel. He's got everything for me. He just needs to iron out the little kinks, and we've got possibly an absolutely fantastic goalkeeper there. So if we move on to the defenders, I've got my list here. I've got Kieran Clark. Didn't really play a lot, to be fair. Again, bugged by injuries this year. But I do think Kieran Clark is a very, very solid central defender. But I've given him a 5 simply because he hasn't been around much. Certainly after the lockdown, he's just the injuries are just horrendous, aren't they? But I've given him a 5. Next on my list is Paul Dummett. Now, Dummett, I've actually given him a 6. 6 for me is steady away. You know, you know what you get with Dummett. You know what I mean? He's very much a defender. Not great at sort of getting forward and whipping balls in. That's just not what Dummett's all about. Excellent pace going backwards. Great tackler. Like I say, you know what you're going to get with Dummett. So I've gone with a 6 for him. Now, Fernandez, absolutely. Well, certainly after the restart. For me, one of the standout players in the squad this season. I've given him an 8 out of 10. I thought since the restart, he's been absolutely fantastic. But he came in earlier in the season and just made the place his own. I mean, I think he surprised a lot of supporters this season with the way he's played. Certainly myself, and speaking to other fans, he really has sort of excelled to what we expected. So he's got an 8 for me, and well done for that, because he's been very, very solid. He's looked the part, and that surprised me. But like I said, I've given him an 8. Next on the list will be Emil Kraft. Now, this is going to cause a lot of discussion, because some fans can't stand him. Some fans think he's rubbish. Some fans think he's okay. I've given him a 6 out of 10. Again, steady away for me. He does make mistakes, but again, he's been quite solid since the restart. I can't really take anything away from him. He's never made any sort of glaring defensive mistakes which have led to any goals. So again, I can't really punish him for that. So a steady away 6 for me. He's nothing. He doesn't really sort of stand out for anybody, does he? You know, he's not that player that you think, oh, Kraft had a great game. He's just steady away. So 6 out of 10 for me for Kraft. Jamal Lascelles, I've given him 7 out of 10 this season. The reason I've gone for 7 is, again, he hasn't really excelled for me in any games. The 7 as well is based upon leadership skills. I think he's not the most all out and out leader that we could possibly have. But during the lockdown, especially when there's been no fans in the ground, you can hear him getting at the players, which is good to hear. You know, I remember one. I can't remember the game it was. It might have been Bournemouth when Danny Rose failed to clear a ball, and you could clearly hear Lascelles go absolutely nuts with him. So yeah, steady away, steady 7 for me. He's still prone to making mistakes. I don't think he's the greatest at bringing the ball out and passing. I think he's excellent at heading away and clearing the ball, but bringing it out of defence isn't his strong point. And I've always said that about Lascelles. To me, he doesn't sort of give you the confidence when he comes out with the ball. And his passing range isn't too good. But a steady 7 for Jamal this season. Next, I've gone for Lejeune. I've given him a 4. 4 out of 10. Not because he's been terrible or anything like that, but he's been injured for most of the season. Yes, we remember the 2-2 draw at Everton, the fantastic 2 goals that he scored, but he hasn't been around enough for me to sort of rate him anything more than a 4. You know, I could have given him a 5, but, you know, he hasn't been around long enough for me. So we'll move on from Lejeune, and we'll get on to Javier Manquillo. Now, Manquillo, for me, has been a big surprise. I've given him a 7 out of 10. I think he's been a steady away at right back this season, the games he's been allowed to play in. He's done a job. He certainly hasn't sort of let me think, oh God, Manquillo's in at right back, I'm going to worry about this. I think maybe last season definitely, but this season different. He's working really hard. He's playing well, and I've been quite happy with Manquillo, and certainly him signing a new contract didn't really bother me. It wasn't as if to say, oh, what they've gone and done that for. I think he's been steady away and decent this season. So 7 out of 10 for Javier Manquillo. And Danny Rose. Now, games he's looked all right in, games he hasn't. And I've given Danny Rose a 6 out of 10 for this season. I don't really expect him to come back next year, simply because I don't think Newcastle will pay £14.4 million for him. That's why. However, you know, 6 out of 10 for Rose. Like I say, there's nothing much you can say. He hasn't been one of those standout players where you think, oh, he was fantastic in that game. You don't remember him in any game that he was really outstanding. But again, steady away. He's made mistakes. But again, I think he's surprised a lot of people after the restart. He was quite solid. So 6 for Danny Rose. Fabian Schär, I've given a 4 out of 10 for many reasons. He's got the 4 from me, mainly because of his attitude since he was dropped. We all know that, you know, Fernandez came in and Schär was left out when he was fit again. And for me, he just seemed to take a huge huff. And that was evident on the pitch, especially after the restart. He was just not there. His head wasn't in the game. He just didn't seem interested. He was lazy. And a lot of fans noticed that, and everyone sort of putting on Twitter, where is Schär? Where has he gone? What's he doing? And for me, very, very poor this season. And so I've gone for a 4 out of 10. However, I do wish him the very best of luck in getting over his operation on his shoulder. That looked like a very, very nasty injury. So hopefully he'll get fit again, and we'll get back to seeing the real Schär if he's here next season. So next on the list, we've got DeAndre Yedlin. I've given him a 5. Again, hasn't really been around a lot this season. He's come on for substitute appearances. Certainly haven't seen him much after the restart. But again, I can't really sort of give him a higher than a 5 because he hasn't been around on the pitch long enough for me. Now moving on to the midfielders, I've gone for Bentaleb first. I've given Bentaleb a 6 out of 10. For me, you know, there's the odd flash that there's a player in there. You know what I mean? It just, every so often you just see him make a tackle or a piece of skill or a pass, and you think, you know, maybe there is a player in there. Maybe there is, but just not enough. So he goes missing quite a lot, and some of his tackling's a lot to be desired sometimes when he just throws himself in and doesn't really think about it very much. But for me, there is a player in there. Do I think he'll be back next season? Not really. And certainly if he's asking for the wages that have been reported, you know, £80,000, for me, I don't see, well, if it's Ashley, definitely not, but even the new owners might struggle to think, well, is he worth 80 grand a week? I'm not so sure. But anyway, 6 out of 10 for Bentaleb. Isaac Hayden, one of the standout players of the season for me, and one of the most underrated players in the Premier League as far as I'm concerned. I've given him a 9 out of 10, and simply because he has been absolutely fantastic. Mainly next to Shelvey, I think, is where he really excels. Those two seem to know, if Shelvey goes forward, Hayden is hanging back, and they know each other's game very, very well, and they combine well in the midfield. So I think Shelvey alongside Hayden is a good partnership for me. But Hayden has just been the amount of work that guy puts in, the tackles he puts in, and he plays it simple. He wins the ball back and then just gives it to Shelvey, for example, who he knows is a better passer of the ball. But it's the work rate from Hayden, the way he gets up and down the pitch. And this is a guy, remember, who said that he wanted to leave. And, for family reasons, not because he didn't like the club. I think all the fans understood why he wanted to leave. But at the end of the day, he stayed. He was told he was staying, and he's just got his head down and worked his socks off. And he's been absolutely fantastic this season. So hats off to Isaac Hayden. For me, one of the standout players for us, undoubtedly, last season. So well done to him. Lazaro, we don't see enough of. He played right back against Liverpool in the last game of the season. And for me, he's not a right back. He's a midfielder, or certainly an attacking side of things. When I've seen him play sort of in the past before he came to Newcastle, definitely not a defender for me. And I think really it showed against Liverpool that he's not a defender. He was left to dry a few times. So yeah, I've given him a 5, but I'd love to see him come back, maybe on another year's loan with a view to a permanent deal, and actually getting some playing time. Because there is flashes of a player in there. That goal he scored against Bournemouth was incredible, brilliant goal, and I'd love to see him get a bit more time on the pitch, but who knows under Bruce. So we move on, and we've got Matty Longstaff. I've given him a 6. We haven't really seen a lot of Matty, certainly after the restart, and we know what's going on with his contract. Again, I think there's a player in there. Do I think he'll be here next season? No. I think it's gone too far now. There must be some reason why he's not signing that new contract. My personal opinion on Matty Longstaff is that if he has been offered 20 grand a week, which has been reported, I don't think he's worth more than that. Simply because he hasn't played enough in the Premier League. He's not proven yet. And I know there's a lot of Matty Longstaff fans out there who may disagree, but that's just my opinion. I haven't got anything against Matty Longstaff at all. I think he's got a real talent. But, there must be something going on as to why he hasn't signed that contract. But I don't think he's worth more than that at the minute. A couple of years down the line, if he's, a regular in the first team and he's doing it week in, week out in the Premier League, yes, then fair enough. He's got something to fight for and say, hang on a minute, I'm worth a lot more than that. But at the minute, not for me. So I've given him a 6, mainly for that goal against Man United. But anyway, let's move on to his brother Sean. I've given him a 6 as well. Injury-plagued season for Sean Longstaff. Came in last year and was definitely the talk of the league. We remember Manchester United being interested in him and other teams like that. He's very, very talented player. I was really impressed with what I saw with him at Bournemouth when he was played more in an attacking role before he got injured. He looked really dangerous in that, kind of number 10 role he played there. So it was different to see him there, but I thought for the time he was on the pitch, he did really, really well. Scored a beautiful goal. But again, just injury plagued. Hopefully see a bit more from him next season. So a 6 for Sean Longstaff. Next on the list is Matt Ritchie. Matt Ritchie, I've given a steady 7 out of 10. He hasn't done anything sort of amazing this season. He scored some fantastic goals since the restart. But again, mainly, it's just his engine. He's up and down. You can see how committed he is. When we score a goal, the sheer joy in his face, the passion. Nobody can say that Matt Ritchie does not put himself around for that team because he plays for that shirt week in, week out. I think he's getting a bit past it now to the stage where, maybe the pace is getting to him a little bit and he's moving more defensively over the course of the last few games, which I think he could still do a job if he, trains hard at left back. I think there's a position there for him. Maybe not at Newcastle, but, who knows. But I think as a winger, the pace might be getting to him a little bit. But a steady 7 for Matt Ritchie. Next is Alain Saint-Maximin. Now, what can you say about this guy? He's come in, he's just took the league by the scruff of the neck and gone for it. I haven't given him a 10 out of 10. I've gone for 9 out of 10 for ASM, simply because the one area that I think Maximin can do better is final ball. Now, I don't know whether anybody else has noticed this, but sometimes he'll go on these mazy runs, he'll go on these fantastic, just in and out of defenders as if they're not there. But when it comes to a cross or finishing it, yes, he scored a couple of good goals this season, don't get me wrong. However, I just think 8 out of 10 times the final ball from him isn't quite there, or he shoots from like sort of 40 yards out, which just nowhere near on target. Now, that is a very, very brief criticism of ASM, because he's a young kid and he'll get better. The more he's in this Premier League, he'll just take it by storm. I really, really hope we hang on to him, because this takeover needs to go through, because the way it's, panned out, teams are going to come in for him, and Ashley's just going to rub his fingers and think, oh God, millions for me again, which I really don't want. But I've given him a 9, and that's the reason why. But he is, for me, fantastic, incredible player. Certainly every time he gets the ball, he makes you just want to watch. You don't know what he's going to do, you don't know what's going to happen. So for me, again, along with Hayden, standout player for this season. So 9 out of 10 for Saint-Maximin. But if you disagree, obviously put a comment below with what you'd rate him. Next on the list, we've got Jonjo Shelvey. Now, Shelvey is a player that really sort of defies opinions. He sort of divides everybody. I've given him an 8 out of 10 this season, because I think Shelvey's been really, really good this season. I think there hasn't been as many games this year that he's just sort of drifted in and out of or disappeared completely. Certainly since the restart, he's been one of our better players. His work rate has, you can see a change. He's fighting for the ball in his own half. He's running around, he's shouting instructions, which is what you want to see from Shelvey. And I've always said this about him, just if he gets his head right and just keeps it in the game constantly, he's just different class. The guy's passing ability is incredible. And if he was in another team like Man City or Arsenal or one of the big teams, and he passed the ball like he does on a regular basis, he'd be on Match of the Day or Sky Sports. There'd be, hailing him for days about passes like that. We've seen Pogba do one at Tottenham. He hit a pass, and it was on the news for, they couldn't stop talking about it. I mean, Shelvey does this week in, week out, you know what I mean? So, I've seen a big change in Shelvey. Yes, he still goes missing the odd time. I'm not going to deny that, but I've been quite impressed with Jonjo this year, which I've given him an 8 for. So, but again, if you disagree, let me know. Now, moving on to the forwards, Almiron, I don't know. I've gone for a 7 for Miggy, and again, before the shutdown, he was fantastic, and the goals he was starting to fire in, he was playing off Saint-Maximin brilliantly. He was making runs everywhere, and he was causing a lot of problems. Since the restart, he's been a bit lightweight for me. Just gets knocked off the ball a little too easy, but the guy's commitment is there. The passion he's got, the smile he plays with all the time. He just loves his football. I feel, and I've discussed this with a few of the fans, but I feel that, if he was under sort of a world-class manager, he'd be a different player for me, who can nurture the talent he's got. We've all seen what he can do, and certainly at international level as well, the goals he scored at that level, he can do it. But since the restart for me, just hasn't been right. Playing out a position which is unfair on him. He just can't get a sort of settled position, and that's down to Bruce at the end of the day. But I do think, next season, if he's under a different manager, hopefully we'll see Miggy back to his best, like he was before the lockdown happened, because he was starting to fire in goals. The guy's confidence was through the roof, you could see. But I love Miggy. Who can't? And again, like Matt Ritchie, nothing can take away the passion and the energy that he puts in. It's there. So I've gone for a 7 for Miggy. Now, the player that's coming up next, the fantastic number 9, Joe Linton. Now, he has... I don't know what I can say about him, I mean, we've seen so many fans come on, social media and defend the kid and say that, there is a player in there when he's being pushed out of the wing. He's done this, he's done that. I completely disagree with that. I cannot see how he is going to improve. I've given him a 4 out of 10. Now, that may seem harsh, but he scored 2 Premier League goals this season. 2. And he's Newcastle's number 9. Now, many people say, it's not his fault, the price tag, or it's not his fault he was given number 9. No, it's not. But I'm sorry, any club that pays £40 million for a player will expect something back. If Chelsea, Man United, Man City, they sign somebody for 40 million quid, they're going to expect something. And even if that's not Joe Linton's fault, the price tag, the guy could still put effort in on the pitch. For me, he's lazy. His first touch is just it's non-existent. Now, people have argued with me again on social media saying, when he's been out on the wing, he's held the ball up, he's created some goals. Are we really, really thinking that? I've got nothing personal against Joe Linton. I was, if he started banging in the goals and putting effort in on the pitch, then fine. But when the last few games of the season, when he's been coming on as substitute, you'll think, right, I've lost my place. I'm going to do something about this. But he doesn't. You'd expect him to put himself about, try and win the ball, come back and win the ball. Make yourself stand out. Make yourself look to everybody that's watching that you really, really got the hunger, you've got the passion, you want to get the ball. You don't have to be sort of at the other end scoring goals because we know we don't create chances. And yes, that's been a problem for Joe Linton. That's not his fault that we don't create enough chances. However, when he has had the opportunities, he hasn't taken them. And we know he hasn't. And this guy has got, for me, he's one of the worst number 9s we've ever had. Now, I'd love to be sitting here next summer after the next season and say, right, I was completely wrong about Joe Linton. He's really turned into a player. We were wrong. He needed a season to settle in, etc., etc. I'll gladly eat humble pie, but I just do not see it. But if you do, comment below. Tell me what I'm not seeing in Joe Linton. But if you agree as well, then tell me as well, because I know I'm not the only one that feels like that, but I have to be honest and give me honest opinion. But that's what it is. It's an opinion. So don't go down in the comments leaving abuse saying, F and this, F and that. Just have a conversation. If you think there's a player in Joe Linton, then tell me why. Because I just can't see it. Anyway, we'll move on to Andy Carroll. Now, Andy Carroll, for me, I was quite happy when he came back. Because I thought, it'll give him a real hunger to get back on the pitch. Being back at Newcastle, a team he loves, a team he grew up with, but he hasn't scored. I think when he comes on, don't get me wrong, when that man comes on the pitch, he causes hell for defenders. And this is what I mean between the difference between him and Joe Linton. The defenders aren't afraid of Joe Linton, but Andy Carroll comes on, balls into the area, he puts himself in there. Whether he scores or not is irrelevant. What I mean is he goes in and he causes trouble. And I think, is Andy Carroll better on the ball, with the ball at his feet, than Joe Linton? Damn right he is. And he set a few goals up this season by being good on the ball. But because he hasn't scored, I've had to give Andy Carroll a 5. And, we'll see what happens with him next year. Dwight Gale, now, had I done this before the lockdown, I think Dwight Gale would probably be heading for a 4 or a 5 because everybody that follows me on social media knows that I think he is more suited to the Championship. I think he's a Championship striker. I still do, to be honest. But, he has excelled since the restart, and I've been really, really happy for him. He's put the ball in the back of the net, and that, as a striker, that's all you can ask him to do, is score goals. So I've given him a 7, based on certainly what he's done after the restart than before it. But like I say, all he can do is put the ball in the back of the net. I just wish he'd seem a bit happier when he scores goals. You remember the days of Shearer, Andy Cole, all the strikers that we've had in the past when they've smashed the ball in, and you can see the pure delight on the face that they've scored a goal. You don't get that with Dwight Gale, which is a bit weird. But anyway, like I say, I've given him a 7 simply because I think he's been fantastic since the restart. And the last on the list is Muto. Again, a guy who hasn't played a lot, but is always in and around the subs bench or hovering around. I've given him a 4 simply because I haven't seen enough of him again. Now, people that follow me on Twitter will know that I push for Muto to get some game time. I think there's a player in there. He's very well thought of in European football, to be quite honest. And before he came to Newcastle, he was a big star. Let's not take that away from him. He was doing a great job, and he was a big name, certainly within the European clubs. And when we got him, I thought, there's a player there, and I still do. I just think he needs an opportunity to give 10, 15 games and see what he can do. But he's never had that, and he's probably never going to get that. Steve Bruce has said, he's going to look at him properly in pre-season training. We're all hopeful that Bruce isn't going to be here for pre-season training in the first place. But hey-ho, if he is, he is. But Muto, I think, will be one of the players that they look to move on and try and get some money on. I don't think they'll get a lot out of him, simply because what value has he had this season? They can't turn around and say, oh, he scored this, he scored that, and that's why we value him at this. We're going to take a loss on the kid, undoubtedly. So that's all the players out the way. Steve Bruce, what can you give Steve Bruce? I'm going to give him a 5. Middle of the road. He came in to help us avoid relegation. He did that. However, do I think he's the man to take us forward? Absolutely not. And I've always said that. I've got nothing against Steve Bruce as a guy, but as a manager, I've never, ever rated him. Absolutely never rated him. I said in, a video I did a year ago when he was appointed, I said I was going to give him the chance. I was going to back him simply because I'm a Newcastle fan, and we have to give him the opportunity. After having a season with him, I think his tactics are appalling sometimes. His substitutions are crazy. He sticks with players far too long, i.e. Joe Linton. There's no way he should have been given the starts that he has this season. And I just think there's just so many world-class managers out there that could do such a good job for us. And that's why we're all praying that the takeover's coming. We really have to pray. So a 5 for Steve Bruce. Just some other stats I've got here. We played 45 competitive games this season. And out of those 45 competitive games, we won 13, we drew 17, and we lost 15. We had a win ratio of 29%. 29%. Now, I haven't done any possession stats or anything like that because I know that they're absolutely abysmal. So it's pointless even talking about them. Our possession this season has been absolutely hopeless. But again, that's down to the manager. That's down to the tactics. And, the players are going to go on the pitch and do what the manager's asked. And if that's sit back against Manchester City and take it up the arse, that's exactly what they're going to do. But 29% win ratio. Oh, my God. Anyway, that concludes the video on my player ratings for this past season. So if you agree, if you disagree, put your comments below. Let's have a read of them. Let's have a discussion about them and see how yours differ to mine. Next video will be coming out probably early next week. That's going to be just a discussion on where we are again, just an update and how we feel the takeover's going, and is it going to happen, is it not going to happen, and sort of talk about transfers, transfers if Ashley's still here, transfers if the new owners are in. Are they going to push for big signings straight away, or they're going to slowly build, things like that. But I will be keeping the videos coming. But thank you very, very much for joining me today on this video. Thank you very, very much to all the new subscribers. They've gone up fantastic since I've started the videos up again, so thank you very much for that. If you are new, do subscribe, help me build this channel back up again, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.
Be strong. Be strong.